Welcome in, everyone. Ready to go deep? Today, it's a deep dive into 20th century classical music.
A century of pretty dramatic shifts, groundbreaking innovations, really mind-bending music sometimes.
Definitely. We've got all your questions here, ready to tackle all the major composers, the big trends. By the end of this, you'll really get how classical music was, like, completely reshaped.
Yeah, we'll see how composers like Stravinsky and Schoenberg totally revolutionized the field.
And then there's how global events, like world wars, impacted the music, plus the influence of jazz, folk music, even technology. It's wild.
It all plays a part.
It all connects. Okay, let's start with Stravinsky. Imagine a ballet premiere is so controversial it causes a riot. That's what happened with The Rite of Spring.
Oh, yeah.
What on earth about this piece made people so, I don't know, upset?
It wasn't just the notes themselves, right? It's how they were put together. Imagine this chaotic energy, almost a ritualistic dance. Stravinsky used these jarring rhythms, totally unpredictable.
And those dissonances.
Yeah. Those clashing sounds, creating this feeling of unease. Even violence, some people said. This was so different from the elegant waltzes and pretty melodies people were used to.
Took a sledgehammer to the traditional rules, didn't he? Harmony, rhythm, out the window.
It was like he was tapping into something primal, something that, while it resonated with all the anxieties and changes happening in the early 20th century, this wasn't just music either. Art, literature, politics, it was all transforming. The whole modernist era, really challenging the old ways.
Stravinsky bent the rules.
Yeah.
Schoenberg. He kind of just broke them. I mean, he ditched tonality altogether. That system of keys and chords that had been around for centuries.
Gone.
Poof.
He developed this thing called the 12-tone technique. All 12 notes of the chromatic scale, they're all equal, no hierarchy.
Like inventing a whole new language. Right.
Exactly. And one that wasn't limited by traditional harmony.
I've tried listening to 12-tone music. It's a lot.
Yeah.
How did audiences back then handle this new musical language? No more major or minor keys. It must have been a shock.
Super controversial. Some people were all about it, saw it as like a bold step forward, a liberation from, the old rules. Others hated it, thought it was jarring, dissonant, ugly even. It took a while for folks to wrap their heads around it.
Wild to think that something considered radical back then is now like standard music theory. But of course, this wasn't happening in isolation. The world was changing too, especially with the two world wars. How did something as huge as that impact composers?
Profoundly, in every way. Emotionally, stylistically. Composers were dealing with incredible suffering, political turmoil, big questions about, humanity's survival. It was heavy stuff. Think about Shostakovich and Prokofiev over in the Soviet Union. Their music, it captures all those pressures and anxieties.
So it became a way to process it all, express dissent, explore those huge questions.
Exactly, to give a voice to what was almost unspeakable, to try and find meaning in the middle of so much chaos. Music became a tool almost for reflection and even resistance.
While Europe was going through that, over in America you had Gershwin and Copland creating this distinctly American sound.
Gershwin especially, he blends jazz and popular music with orchestral forms. So vibrant.
And Copland?
Oh, Copland's music. You can practically hear the vast landscapes, that American West spirit. It's all there. Music reflecting national identity. It's fascinating.
You really can hear it in Copland.
Yeah.
Speaking of huge influences, there's also technology to consider. Electronic instruments, recording tech. Must have been like a bomb went off.
It blew everything wide open. Composers had sounds they'd never even imagined before. Synthesizers, tape loops, manipulating sound electronically. Imagine that.
That avant-garde music in the 50s and 60s, right?
Yeah.
Sounds being stretched and warped and layered in ways no one had ever heard.
Exactly. Technology became part of the creative process itself. And that influence is still huge today, obviously. Digital audio workstations, AI even.
Wild. We also can't forget folk music, its impact on 20th century composition. Composers like Bartók using folk melodies and rhythms in their own modernist work.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Music crossing borders and time. Bartók traveled all over Eastern Europe collecting these folk tunes and then wove them into his compositions. This mix of traditional and modern.
Like a conversation across cultures and eras.
Yep.
So we've got all this experimentation, complexity. Then, almost as a reaction, minimalism pops up.
Minimalism, yeah. In part, it was definitely a response to all that density. It's about stripping it back. Simple structures, repetition, limited material, getting the most impact from the least amount of stuff.
Zen garden of music. The space becomes just as important as the sounds. Did this change how people listen to music?
Oh, for sure. Minimalism encouraged a different kind of listening. You're paying attention to subtle shifts and changes, how those musical ideas unfold slowly. It's meditative, contemplative, a world away from those big dramatic narratives.
And all this time, jazz and popular music are creeping into the classical world too.
Totally. You have Bernstein, even Stravinsky, using elements of jazz rhythm and harmony in their work. It all goes to show music's this evolving conversation. Styles and genres are constantly influencing each other.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
Riot-inducing ballets, new musical languages, global events, this fusion of all these different influences. 20th century classical music was a period of radical transformation.
No doubt. It challenged everything, pushed boundaries, and redefined what music even is. And we still feel that impact today. Composers are still inspired by it.
So looking back at this wild century of music, what do you think is its biggest legacy? What do we still hear today because of all this change?
That's a tough one.
I know, right? It's a lot to think about. But that's 20th century classical music for you. Challenging, groundbreaking, and still echoing in the music of today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those ears open and those minds curious.
Absolutely. There's always more to discover.